let's see here. Hi, Marco. How are you? Hi, Martin. I'm going to be doing encounters, and I don't know how many people are going to join, but unlike previous streams, I don't need... Sometimes I would do a live stream, and I need a lot of people to help out with generating ideas or giving feedback, specifically for feedback streams. In this case, I'm just going to be working on these encounters, so the stream might be more passive in that way. But if people do have feedback or they want to comment on things, I think there are interesting things you guys could contribute to. But luckily, I don't need a large group of people in order to make a stream like this work, which is nice because it means I can do an hour and not feel like I have to cancel it if we can't muster like 100 people on this spot or something. Anyways, thank you guys for joining me. Thank you guys also for watching the previous stream. It was really cool seeing that we got 100,000 views. That's pretty awesome. I'll probably leave this stream live, too, on public, so people can go and rewatch it if they want to. I'm also going to set a timer. We're going to do a 45-minute timer and a 1-hour timer, because I only want the stream to last an hour, so I'll have a 45-minute warning. And then what I can do is I can explain what are the encounters. So for people who don't know, I was avoiding encounters a lot in the gameplay live stream because they just weren't really done. So I have these. These are all the encounters I've written. And these are all in the game right now. But a lot of these ideas were made like a year ago when the game looked a lot different. And so I can still reuse a few of these, but I kind of wanted to do a ground up rethink of a lot of the encounters, starting with the ideas, you know, are they good or bad encounters to happen to the player? Which act or region of the game should they appear in, and that sort of thing, and really just give that a proper thought. I also have reworked the categories of the encounters. So previously we had, hostile outposts and then friendly outposts. They were just two opposites. They look the same, but one has a green flag, one has a red flag. I didn't like that, so now I've changed it so that you have redoubts, which are hostile, and then outposts, which are friendly. But they're just visually going to look completely different on the map. It's not a matter of, like, which flag do they fly. It's like a redoubt looks way different and functions a lot differently. Also, people have been requesting sieges, but I can't do siege battles. But we could do a siege encounter. Like, you could encounter a redoubt and press buttons using the choice system like this to bombard multiple times, basically sieging out a redoubt on the map. And I think that strategically would be quite immersive to have and really help set it apart. Because right now I have all of these, again, I call them hostile depots. That's what they used to be. And they mainly just lead to battles. And that's not fun because you can already play battles. So I actually don't want, I would say like 90% of these encounters should not lead to battles. Because the point of an encounter is to take a break from a battle. If half the encounters you went to were just battles, and then after you finish an encounter, you go fight a battle against a regular field army, that would just get repetitive, or it feels like that when I play. So I only want a handful of rare occasions where a battle generates. So yeah, anyways, that's just all the context. I'm going to be doing encounters, and I have a big master image that I hope I didn't delete. I doubt I deleted it. Where the hell did I put it, though? Uh-oh. I had it in my paint, but I deleted everything. Gosh, I should have had it. Where else would I have placed it? I wrote out all the ideas. You know, I think I put it in a discussion page, so I'm gonna look for that. Actually, I think it is here. Here are all my encounter ideas. I can only choose 10 from each one, and these are the new images I'm gonna use. So, like I said, now instead of having friendly depot, hostile depot, which is what it currently is in game, that looks like this. Sorry, this. It'll now be outpost versus redoubt, and I feel like that's a much better way to distinguish it. Of course, an artist is going to draw these images. This is not the official. I know somebody's going to write, well, Griffin, this image doesn't look very good. Yes, I know. I drew a fake sketch. It's not going to look like this, and also won't look like a medieval castle. But I'm just trying to, like, visually make them distinct, so I think that's an improvement. I also changed campfires to encampments, because it'd be weird for an army to just walk up to a single campfire, but an encampment is also broader and more scale appropriate. And instead of a caravan, I had destroyed caravan and non-destroyed caravan. Those are 2 encounter categories. Well, those are quite specific, right? A caravan has to be like, mainly it's merchants and civilians. And also if one's destroyed and one's not destroyed, they also look really similar to each other. So now we have convoy, which could be a caravan, or it could be a military type of convoy, or it could just be a group of people. It could be anything. It's broader. And then to contrast with it, instead of destroyed caravan, I now have shanty, which again is broad. It could be a group of deserters, or it could be a rundown village, or it could be a disease-ridden settlement that you pass through and you take attrition. It could be anything, right? And then I have one brand new encounter type just called supply cache, and this is a way to always generate a good event. Anytime you see a supply cache, it's good. Because right now you go up to like a convoy and it could be okay, but you have to buy things. Or you go to a battle site and it could be dangerous. Go to an outpost and they might give you a mission that you've got to do. But a supply cache is always good. Every time you see one, it's a nice little dopamine of like, oh, there's money there. Or there's either going to be money or there's food. It's a nice supply cache there. I can just go to it for consistency. And then we have the herd, which I currently have in game already. But all you can do there is hunt and you get 50 provisions. Now I'm thinking maybe you get like the animal mascots we have in the game. There's a small chance. Or you have a big buck that you could hunt as a prize and get money. Or maybe you have an option to get the pelts off of deer and sell those. And maybe that would be actually kind of cool too. So yeah, that's the general idea. Now, I have another version of this image that's even larger that I'm hoping I didn't delete. So I'm going to look for that briefly before I bang my head against a wall and realize that I deleted it. I mean, at least I have this. This is a good start. But I had a version of this with all these notes written on it of new... Oh, there it is. Look at this. There we go. This one has all my notes. So... yeah, about the furs I was talking about. Also finding horses. Maybe you find a herd and it's actually just a group of wild horses and then you get a horse item. I think that's also a really easy way to do that, an encounter like that. So, okay, yeah, that's just context for you guys. Let me see if there's anything I'm missing that you guys wrote or questions. Something that I drew when I was in kindergarten. Thanks, K&D. I appreciate it, man. When do I think it's going to be finished? I'll announce a release date on like August 1st, I think. Can you add rebels or thief encounters? I think they'll be part of the shanty. If you go to a shanty, it might be like a group of rebels or something. This is basically like scum of the earth type of encounter. And then encampment could be like, it's more professional, but also hostile. It could be enemies or it could be friendlies. But shanty is like rebels, deserters, or scum, like scoundrels that you find and things like that. Or it could be civilians who just need help. You don't know. I like some randomness. Maybe a small ambush. Yeah, I did put ambush somewhere. I think I put ambush at a battle site that you could walk up to it and go, huh, oh, there's a bunch of dead people. A battle must have happened here. Oh, it's an ambush. They tricked me. Yeah. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to kind of go through here and powder keg left behind. I'm going to go to outpost. I'm writing down all my outpost ideas. So I have allied barracks, training ground, and abandoned outpost. Surrounded allies need help. Starving, leaderless men, overflowing stables, fort need artillery, troops need uniforms, wounded, rotten discipline, old maps. Hire the outpost to assault the enemy HQ. Maybe rumors of a spy. I don't know what we would do with that though. Like, there's a spy and you have to execute them, but I don't really know. I don't know how I would write that. Can get a quartermaster or maybe hire a staff officer. Like quartermaster. Maybe can get a quartermaster free. Like maybe there's a chance you go to an outpost and there's a free quartermaster or commissar. You can choose which one maybe. That'd be kind of cool. One where like we need powder, like they're missing ammunition and for an incoming raid. Oh, how about this? Depending on how much ammunition you give them, it increases the chance of their success. So just to put you in this headspace here, encounters, we have to go, basically you need to use the minimum amount of tools and variables to create the maximum amount of perceived like fun and complexity. So if you can make the player think that they're stumbling onto an outpost that's being raided by enemies and they can have an impact, that sounds like a really cool concept, but of course we can't create a full battle scenario where you load in and there's a dedicated map, an allied AI, and a fort already under siege, and you send up the troops, that'd be really cool. I just don't have the budget for it. So you have to kind of fake some of these things. But you can still include the concept, the immersion of that happening, because that's still fun. But how do you do that with a minimal amount of complexity? And my idea would be, you have ammunition, right? Ammunition is a mana that you have. So what if there are 3 options in an encounter like this, and this one's like donate 100 supply, or 500 supply, or 1,000 supply, and the amount of supply you donate increases the chances of the outpost that you arrived at succeeding in its defense. So if I gave, like Air V2, if I gave 0 powder, the next event would be called outpost failure or outpost defeated. And it would say, hey, you didn't help these guys enough. This outpost is destroyed. Your reputation is lower. There's no reputation system, but we just write something and say, you screwed up. And you get no reward for it as a result. So that's a way to make the player feel immersed that, I actually went and saw these troops under attack. I gave them some of my supplies to help them succeed, but there's a chance that they failed. And if they succeed, maybe they'd give you some of the battle loot from winning. So there's the benefit of that. So again, these encounters have to be like really simple, but the role play and the circumstances are the interesting kind of part of it. Okay. Yeah, maybe, Hugs, what you're saying is you get manpower. Maybe what you would say is if they won, because you gave them the ammunition, they would join you. So maybe a regiment joins you. It doesn't even give you manpower. Maybe it actually just gives you a full regiment of men. And that could be cool, because I currently have a system where there's a chance, in the old encounters, there's a chance you get a regiment by visiting an outpost, but it feels too cheap to be like, you walked up to an outpost, bang, here's a 500 cash, like he's worth 500 dollars regiment, and he just joins your army. Well, that's a bit cheap. Like, make the player work for it in some kind of way. So if you could like give them ammunition and there's a chance they fend off a raid, and then one of the recruits from that raid joins you, it also kind of tells a story, because now that recruit who's in your army, he was from that outpost. So you might give him a little flag of like a little tower, or give him a nickname about being a defender or the forlorn hope, and it kind of adds a little role play to your story. So you guys can kind of see how these encounters now work in the context of the game. It's really important to know that this is our kind of aim with these. Because, yeah, we don't have a lot of time, we don't have a lot of budget, we don't have, like, a huge team that can make crazy encounters where you load in and you have to fight this epic battle, and we're just kind of creating these little role-play moments for the player. That's essentially what it is. Okay, let's keep moving on. The other thing I'd written down for myself is send us X item. So maybe there could be a fetch quest system where the game just reads what's in your inventory. I already have something like that. Like, you're in need of uniforms, because you get an item called captured uniforms pretty often. So it'd be cool to go to an outpost and they're like, hey, do you have any spare uniforms? If you do, we'll buy them from you or something. And you can trade in some of that loot that you may have gotten from a battle and give them those captured uniforms. And maybe that helps them. Okay, so let's continue on. We only need 10 encounters for each category, by the way. So this is, I'll put this dotted line because this is pretty much where the 10 are. So anything past the 10 is overflow. So now we go to the encampment. We could have a night raid. We could have a field hospital. You could have a resting enemy army that you could ambush, I guess. There could be, this is from my old encounters, there could be an exiled officer who's kind of disgraced, just camping out, and you could kind of like convince them to rejoin. Like, kind of like Rambo, where like the special forces, they're like, Rambo, we need you. You've been, you quit this, you quit from fighting, but we need you to come back. And then you can get like a free officer from that, or maybe you pay him to convince him or something. There could be a deserter camp, which I don't know if deserter camp would fit here if we already have a shanty, because a shanty could be where the deserters are. So I kind of feel like I'm probably going to save that. Do like deserter camp. I want to make sure they're in the right categories. Then we can narrow them down. We have this overflow you're seeing here. We can narrow these down, but I just want to get everything into the correct categories before we do that. There could be, I already have medic camp, right? Yeah, field hospital. There could be an abandoned campsite, so there's just like no one there, but there's like just a handful of supplies, just like 2 items. I think that's basic and that's simple. A retired veteran staff officer. I don't really like that idea. Friendly. It could just be a friendly encampment. You're like, oh, these are my allies. What's up? And you could trade something, or they can give you something. I don't know. I also like this dice by the fire, a chance to gamble. So you can play some dice with people who are there. Because that's very easy. You just create 3 options of how much you want to wager, and you just give the player a percentage chance they're going to win from that wager. I may not even show them the percentage, just so you can decide if you want to just put some money up and see what happens. And that's very simple. It's just a chance to, like, bet some money. I don't know what else to do for the encampment, though. I kind of have these open slots here. Any ideas for the encampment? Someone says scout event. I'm not sure what that means, though. You have to be more specific. You capture a scout. Interesting. Oh, your scout gets captured. I don't know. You can't track the enemy HQ. The only thing is that's like a unique mechanic. I have things that I have basic functions that are already in, like giving the player money or mana or like manpower, or removing those things, or giving them a regiment or removing a regiment, or taking damage across the army, or giving them items. That's kind of the extent to what we can do. We can't really create a new mechanic where it's like, oh, the tracking system of the enemy headquarters has now been disabled as a result of the event. I mean, we could do that if we really, really wanted a certain encounter, but if we're just trying to fill out all the encounters here, we don't want to start coming up with complex ideas, because I don't want to. A lot of these can be done through visual coding, actually, through like these code block system that we have called the quest graph. And I can even work with that, and one of our other animators can work with that. But if we have to code in specific mechanics for this, I'd have to pull off our developer who's working on improving the battle system, or like the AI, and have him work on this instead. And I would rather have better AI than have like a scout encounter that has its own unique mechanic. Of course, it's difficult for you guys because you don't know which things these encounters can alter. So it's still good to throw out your ideas, but I'm just explaining some of them may not be possible necessarily. Maybe in the destroyed battlefield you can find hanged soldiers. Let me see, where's the battle site? I do have desolate land and a mass grave, so I feel like that kind of covers that. Idea, upon beating a shanty, you can receive a militia unit where you can either spend some money to get them a uniform or keep the civilian. The idea of like giving them civilian uniforms, I'd have to make a unique unit for that, and I don't think that would be. That would actually be kind of cool to make a unique unit. But I don't think that would be a bit difficult to do. Yeah, no, it wouldn't be possible, unfortunately. There could be a fight within some soldiers. The only thing, Elo, is these are encounters, so you walk up and something happens, not events. Events would mean your army's just marching and you just get a pop-up. And that would be really cool to do, but we just don't have time to do the events, unfortunately. For encampment, you could find an abandoned stable. Yeah, that could work. Abandoned stable, maybe. Yeah. What else could you find? The encampment's actually a little bit tough. Will I do another? Yeah, I'll probably do another playthrough. Once I get the encounters finished. So let's say in 3 to 4 weeks, I'll probably do another playthrough. I don't think you need a tracking system. Is there a way to tell the player the general location of an enemy force and what direction it's headed? I don't think so. I think that'd be a bit tough to do. The guns are in disrepair, and you could repair them to get gun items. I wonder how that could work. Yeah, that actually is interesting. Would that be better to put under the outpost? Because what you could do is you spend money. Let's say you spend $200, and you get 2 guns in return. And the role play or the context of the event would be that the guns need to be repaired. Do you have any like cash or something to help us repair them? So yeah, something like that could easily be done. I don't know where I would put that, either in the encampment or the outpost, but I could just put like repairing weapons, and then should this be at outpost instead? What would you need to do at an encampment? Maybe people are in need, like allied troops in need of food because they're encamped and maybe starving a bit. Or you could say allied troops in need of blankets, because we have blanket items. So you could, if you have blanket items in your inventory, maybe you just if you have at least one, you can give it to the encampment. And if you don't have the blankets, you would note that down to yourself, walk up to a town, find a town that has blankets, purchase one, go back to the encampment and offer it to them, and then they give you a reward as an exchange, and that would be kind of cool. I feel like giving blankets and food to people at an encampment makes sense because military encampment is like disconnected from its logistics network. So yeah. You could do a drill encampment, giving every unit some XP. I already have that. I have a training ground at the outpost. I feel like it's more fitting at the well, is it more fitting at an outpost? An outpost would be less manned, whereas encampments, they could be running a whole drill exercise. So we could move that over there because we have so many outpost ideas. And then I could keep the barracks at the outpost because I feel like a barracks could make sense. And at a barracks, maybe you could buy a unit at an outpost who's like stationed there. And then a whole training ground could be at an encampment. I feel like that could work. So I can move it over there. It looks like we have enough. It could be a refugee camp with civilians. Yeah, it could be a refugee camp. Okay. That's a good idea too, for variety. Is there any other idea with a camp? What about something to make you feel like you're Washington crossing the Delaware? Because he ambushed the Hessian camp. Obviously, that's not in the same time period. But if we're trying to talk about like immersion, what's a moment? Maybe like you crossed over a river and found an encampment, and then you get let's do like a role play of Washington crossing the river. So like maybe the event would be like you're crossing a river. Maybe it would blend. You know how like in Oregon Trail, when you cross a river, a wagon could break down, or you get across, right? So this could say, do you want to raid? You know, there's an enemy camp across that river. Do you want to raid it? And then the encounter says, yes, pack up X supplies. Let's cross the river and be bold and take them on. And then there's a chance it could fail. And you cross over that river and then ambush the encampment and capture the enemies or something. Just to make, because I want to just make you feel like you're doing things that real commanders did back then. That's kind of maybe a fun idea to feel like that. I don't know. Ability to go to a town and offer people what they need. Broken bridge means you have to cross the river. Broken bridge, I don't know, but a bridge might be too specific because you'd expect to see it on the map. I suppose you would expect to see a river too, but this could be like a creek or something that's maybe not necessarily on the map. But we can always come back to it. The next one we have is convoy. So it's a group of wagons. So this could be an enemy reinforcement convoy. It could be hidden contraband. It could be a provisions wagon or a munitions shipment. It could be a supply train. It could be a treasury escort. It could be locals who have intel or maps, because I have a mechanic that lets you reveal village locations. So maybe you could pay for that information from a convoy of... Then again, I almost feel like the intel should be at the Shanty, because it's more like run down and there could be guerrillas there or something, so I actually would move that over. There could be traveling merchants, prisoner wagons, fleeing civilians, What else could be at the convoy? Can attack the convoy if they're enemy nation civilians, yeah. Able to carry a garrisoned unit in a camp or something. An allied convoy? Yeah, what would you do to an allied convoy, though? What would you'd walk up and do what? What would be your exchange? Because at an encampment, maybe you can train your men. Or if it's friendlies who are at an outpost, maybe you could buy something off of them or give them something. If they're just a convoy, what would you do to your... I guess you would consolidate and be like, hey, you're marching this way, we're marching this way, come join us. So maybe you could bring on some of those troops. Maybe it'd be an opportunity to kind of expand your army a bit. What else could they do? They could give you a certain item. By the way, here are the items that we have, because you could build encounters around items. So I want to show you this just so you guys have the context. We have all these ammunition types. We have grenades. We have gunner's implements for artillery. We have elevation screws, ramrods, entrenching tools, shepherd's axes and spontoons, tompions and gun picks, lots of regimental staff, field musicians, lots of musicians, cartridge boxes, limber chests, and so on, haversacks, canteens, saddles, gaiters, shoes, and blankets, jackets and breastplates, Bibles, pendants. Oh, I like the Bible. Maybe like maybe something with the Bibles. It could be, you know how like you have the people who knock on your door. This could be like a little religious convoy of like what do you call those, pilgrims? Like pilgrim convoy, religious items of some sort. Maybe you can like pick up some cross pendants from them. Or like an excellent, we're creating a new system where now you have qualities of certain items. So you see how you have basic, good, and excellent. Maybe you can get excellent cross pendants from the pilgrims who give them to you, and that could be kind of cool. Medicinal herbs, tobacco, beer, spirits, tea, mascots for the animals, horses that you can get, lots of horses, and then tons of military treatises. And then these are basic loots, like captured uniforms, flags, brooches, diamonds. You could do one where it's a jewelry salesman, and you can buy brooches or diamonds from them and then go sell them at a local town for a profit. And that could be kind of cool. I know that sounds weird for an army to do, but maybe you could, I don't know, they could be like funny moments. Like a lot of these are military related, like field hospitals and night raids and barracks. We could have a couple that kind of feel funny or interesting in that way. But yeah, now that you guys know the items, now you can kind of almost think of encounters like beer and alcohol. I wonder if there's something you could do around like a shanty. You could have a brewery or something. Where they want to give you alcohol or something like that. Like shoes and saddles and canteens. The regimental staff is cool too. Like you could find a chaplain somewhere. But yeah, think about that if you guys want to. You can also rewind the stream if you want to look at any of these items. And you could build encounters based on them. We also have guns and cannons and bayonets, of course, too. But yeah, someone asked if we have a priest. We do have a priest, the chaplain, that you can hire. So we could make him part of the pilgrim convoy. Either you can get crosses and Bibles or a chaplain or something like that. A convoy of musicians. I don't know if you'd have a convoy of musicians. You could have an encampment of... like special musicians who were there or some playing, but I don't know how that would work. You'd have regimental bands or even bands on a divisional level that would be hired by high level officers to play music for them and their men, which is interesting. Like Stonewall Jackson had his own private band that would be at his camp. Instead of a jeweler, what about looters? Confront them, trade with them, or press them into service. Yeah, you could do both. You could have a jewelry salesman. Or you could do maybe at the shanty. I like the idea of a convoy, though. Someone's, like, selling off jewelry there. But we could move that to the shanty, and it could be kind of like scoundrels selling, like, stuff they picked off of bodies or jewelry that they stole. And you could either fight them and take them on or buy their stuff off of them. Michael, Spontoons give you an experience buff and a very slight melee buff. Idea of an event, stolen orders. They might reveal orders of an enemy or empower the enemy HQ. That's interesting. That's very interesting. It's really interesting you say that, Andrea, because we can do both mechanics. I don't have them in, but I have the inverse of them. So I'll explain. We do have a thing where you can reveal enemy enemies on the map, I believe. So that can be in. We also have a thing that removes strength from the enemy headquarters. It removes strength, but we do that using a -1 integer. You could just do a +1. You could just invert it, so the mechanic's already there. Because we have a thing where you can basically like hire guerrillas to harass the HQ, and it removes a regiment. So you could do a thing where maybe you were given fake orders, and it actually strengthens them because you underestimated the enemy or something like that. So that's quite cool. I would feel like that's at the shanty where there's like more scummy things going on. Fake orders could reveal enemy forces, or they tipped you off and made the enemy HQ grow faster. Visit a town a local boy wants to join as a drummer boy. I guess where would that be? I guess at a shanty. The drummer boy. There has to be more than just get a field musician, though. I feel like we could come up with more options, but yeah. I feel like that'd be cool to Shanty, to find like an impoverished kid and to take him on. And you would kind of remember him, right? You'd assign him to a regiment and know that you picked him up and rescued him from poverty, basically. Gravediggers is interesting. Maybe they could be at the convoy. Maybe there's like a pulled over set of wagons and you walk up and they're actually like digging graves, stealing stuff. Could be. I don't know. Shanty could also give food. Oh, you know what could be cool is Shanty that gives frontier recruits. I wonder if we could do that. There's a unit for Russia called Frontier Recruits, and they basically look like civilian units. And I wonder if there's a way a special event could give you a civilian regiment that you could never recruit from, but you get these like scoundrel frontiersmen kind of troops, no matter what faction you're playing as. So even if you're not Russia, you could actually get them, and that would be a really unique moment. Because we can give you any regiment ID. I could give you a French soldier if we wanted to. That gives me another idea where it could be like an auxiliary barracks where you can choose to hire a recruit from any 5 nation. That would be really cool. So imagine it was like the 5 choices are to hire an English recruit, hire a Russian recruit, hire a French recruit, and so on. And no matter what nation you are, they could even be the auxiliaries for those nations. So instead of English, it'd be their German version. And instead of Russian, it'd be a frontiersman. And instead of French, well, no, French would just be a French royal recruit. And then instead of Austrian, it could be a Hungarian or a Grenz recruit. And instead of a Prussian, it'd be a Freikorps. That would be really cool. So you would have an opportunity to use a unit from another nation. I think that's a really cool moment to make your playthrough unique. I don't know where you would find that. Maybe at a shanty? Because it's kind of, a shanty is basically like a rundown village. So maybe you could find... And you could upgrade them, by the way. You could upgrade them into like a full Russian musketeer, essentially, and have a captured unit in your regiment and kind of... But they'd be flying your flags, and that would be kind of cool. What category would you guys see that in if we did that? It wouldn't be a convoy. It could be an encampment. Maybe. Maybe at the encampment, they're holding prisoners. Would it be at an outpost or an encampment? I feel like encampment, you would... Okay, so like a prisoner camp where you can take on a recruit from another nation. And then yeah, I think that would be really cool. The thing is, you could probably go conventional then. You could just do a Cantonist recruit or a Russian musketeer recruit and stuff. What would be... I really like the frontiersman, though, kind of like symbolizing a civilian unit, but you would be able to upgrade him into the unit tree into like a Cossack, and that wouldn't really work. So I think we're kind of stuck with that idea. But I really like the idea of a prisoner camp where you can basically get an auxiliary unit that you would never be able to recruit from with that nation. I think that sounds really fun. So you could recruit a Freikorps as France. Yeah, exactly. Just for fun, I think that would be really cool to have one encounter, a rare encounter that could happen to make your playthrough unique. Because it's kind of like how the Prussians went into Saxony and impressed a ton of Saxon... They basically formed entire Saxon regiments because they were impressing so many of them into service. Prisoner of War. You could take the recruit from the Prisoner of War. There's a chance they rebel. I don't know if that... I wouldn't really have a... You would have to build an entire system in which they would rebel and track them in battles. And you're basically building entire mechanics for one encounter. So I think that'd be too... Even if it's a good idea, it's too specific. A politician? I don't know what you would do with a politician, though. Yeah, I don't know. A unique civilian unit. That's the thing. I don't think we can make a unit. I don't think we can make one. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if we could. Um, no, the game is not going to be free yellow. Where you can capture, execute a politician. I don't think so. All right, let's do. Let's go back to the shanty. We have a deserter hideout. A game of Pharaoh, which is like a gambling game, so it's more gambling. Just because we already have the dice that you can play at the camp, and a Pharaoh you could play at the shanty. I think it reuses something twice, but they could be kind of I think the Pharaoh game would probably be higher stakes at a whole shanty town versus a little campfire game. Um, and then maybe be higher risk, higher reward. So you'd have like a 50% chance to win a lot, whereas the other one could be like a 60% chance to win a little, especially because they like you if it's an encampment. Whereas the Pharaoh, they don't mind scamming you. Could be stranded refugees. It could be quarantined civilians who are sick. It could be homeless civilians. Disguised enemy base or stolen war supplies from the people who live there have stolen war goods, basically. You could do stranded enemy troops. A shanty rigged to explode, so you walk in and it was an ambush, and they just take attrition immediately. It blows up some of your men. It could be a civil feud between two sides in a neighborhood. So you kind of take a side. Maybe you could like either you give one side the ammo they need, or give one side the manpower they need. So whatever mana you have excess of, you give to the side you want to side with, the east side or the west side. It's like a little gang war, and you get to intervene. And then the side that wins gives you some reward. I think that'd be fun. Maybe they give you some ice. They give you some jewelry. that'd be quite funny. And then we have it could be street fighting between your allies and your enemy. So like a more conventional battle being fought. So you do a more conventional thing to assist. I don't know what that would be necessarily. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like maybe the civil feud, it would be like you can give cash or ammunition. Or let me think. No, cash or food. Because they're either going to be starving or they're going to be like mercenaries, kind of. Whereas the one with your allies, you either give them the ammo or the manpower they need, or something like that. And you can kind of, yeah, I think that'd be kind of, so give your allies manpower or ammo, because they're a more conventional fight, right? Whereas side with the group that needs money or the group that needs food, because they're more like desperate. And this way you kind of have two similar encounters that kind of work differently. Maybe it'll be too redundant, I don't know, but I like the variety. I think it's cool to have different cases like that. Then we have a supply cache. We don't need 10 of these. In fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'd probably just do 5 for the herds and the supply caches, most likely. Real quick, this would be hunting deer. You can either get food or pelts. You could have hunting a big prize buck. One of your officers could, and it could result in a hunting accident or big prize. And then we have the mascots, the animal mascots. So it should be Dachshund mascot, bear mascot, greyhound mascot, Great Dane mascot, goat mascot, or you could find wild horses. In fact, we might even be able to get the herds up to 10. I feel like if we only need 2 more, I don't know what other kind of herds that you could find. Oh, can we do some kind of reference to... I don't think we should do that. Maybe growing potatoes. Frederick was obsessed with getting the civilians in Germany to grow potatoes as a new crop, and they hated them. And the famous story goes that he kept trying to tell them that potatoes would be great and that all, poor civilians should grow them, and they wouldn't because they were seen as poor. So then Frederick grew them in his personal garden and removed the gates and restrictions around them so people could come snoop and see, and people would steal the potatoes because they thought it was a sign of nobility. That's the story, at least. And then potatoes became popular. So it could be funny to have like a shanty where you go and there's some kind of thing where you, I don't know, give them food to grow potatoes or something like that. I think that's kind of a dumb idea, but it's just a historical reference, that's all. Anyways, let's I need 2 more for a wild herd, and then we'll do the supply caches, and then we're done. Then I'll probably go off stream and I'll probably fill all this out myself. But I just figured it'd be cool so you guys kind of see what encounters we're coming up with, and you guys came up with some I wrote down, so that's cool. Let me read what you guys are saying too. According to historical reports, a physical pharmacy or hospital were an important part of a military convoy. Yeah, you're saying scouts. I don't know what I would do with scouts. So I could do something about scouts as part of a convoy, maybe. Did I remove... Where's my duel? Yeah, I have a duel already at a battle site that you could find. I think players should have power to set up these sort of negative encounters for the enemy armies. That's not going to be possible. For the supply cache, there could be a pack station encounter. We could choose between... yeah, exactly. Professional Romanian, that's exactly what I was thinking. This would be like... care package. Choose between one of the 3 manas. Food, ammo, food, ammo, and cash. And then there could be a care package that's lots of cash or lots of food. Honestly, though, here's the thing about the supply caches. I kind of want to generate a supply cache that you get anytime you enter a new region. Because when I was live streaming, I barely beat the headquarters battle. Everyone was like putting the confetti. We won the big battle. I got into region 2. I had no food. And then I just starved to death and died instantly. And that was kind of anticlimactic. So it would be cool if a care package spawned at the beginning of each region and let you choose what to get. But if that care package was predetermined that it's just lots of cash, or it's lots of food, or it's lots of ammo, it's random, you could get the wrong resource and die. So it should probably be to choose between the 3 that you want. I think that would be nice. Or it could be a little bit of everything, but I would rather maybe you choose. I think choosing would be better, yeah. And so the supply cache could honestly just be that always. It could just be a care package every time that you get to pick from. Just so it's consistent. Yeah, I think that'd be good. How many animal mascots are there? There are 5. Dachshund, bear, greyhound, Great Dane, and goat. For the herd, you could find sheep led to a pasture. Yeah, that's kind of cool. That's a good idea. A sheep herd by a pastor. Give him... I don't know why you would give... Why would you give him ammunition, though? Give him blank. He gives you... I like blankets because they're made from the wool. And food from the lamb. I'm not sure what you would give him, though. What would a pastor need? Chance to capture an enemy officer. We do have that. If I go to the redoubt, I believe, it is a command headquarters where you stumble on officers you can capture. And that happened in real life. There's a painting of Frederick the Great. There's a painting of Frederick the Great entering a hotel, an Austrian hotel, by accident, and there's a bunch of soldiers there, and they're about to capture him. And he's like, uh-oh. I believe that's what happened. Find sheep and return them. I did think about that, Elrico, but I couldn't, like, spawn a sheep item for you to return. I don't think that would really work. You could give food for a guaranteed amount of money, kill enemy horses or cattle. Something about a politician. Get a small amount of loot. Bibles, give him God. Variation in the food types. We don't have variation in the food types, so it wouldn't work, unfortunately. A herd event where you encounter a cave inhabited by a particular white rabbit. Right. Michael, you know what's cool about that? We have items for grenades. So maybe if you encounter that event, you get a grenade, a holy hand grenade, if you will. And I know that Monty Python references are kind of cringe now, but if we have grenades, I wish we had a unique item called the holy hand grenade. That would be fun. I was thinking about doing that, but I think that'd be a waste of time. So we just give like a regular bag of grenades. And I think that could be kind of fun, actually. We could make it more subtle and just make it a rabbit hunt. And you get grenades. So it could just be like a rabbit hunt or a rabbit cave if we want to do that. And give the player grenades. I think that is quite funny. I think you could find an abandoned treasury. We kind of have a little bit of that, John, because on the Convoy we have a treasury escort that you can loot. Going back to the redoubt, maybe you find a siege fort that's in disrepair. That'd be more for your outpost. Because the redoubt, you don't have any allied redoubts. Repairing a disrepaired redoubt. The thing is, professional remaining, we kind of have that because I have starving garrison. And so, or like troops in need of uniform or fort in need of artillery. So we kind of have some of those. By the way, I was thinking of like creating a really robust siege system for the redoubt, where like you have the encounter and it has like 3 options of how you want to siege it, and then like nested events based on what you choose, and it pushes the days forward, so you're actually like sieging it properly. And I think that would be kind of cool to have an event because people have been asking for it. I think that'd be kind of cool to have. If there's any event to spend a longer amount of time on, I mean, it would be one like that. Otherwise, I think we're in good shape. Do you guys feel the same that for the supply cache, it should always just be the care package so that it's a form of consistency? Or should there be a chance it's something else? I just don't want to... We could make it other things for variety, and when the player spawns into a region, we can set the specific ID that they get, the exact encounter that they get. Because if we're worried about diluting the pool of possible supply caches, we would just spawn the particular one we want the player to have. So... Strat Gaming has... Yeah, Holy Dice. Okay, yeah. Maybe an event where you can find out a higher ranking officer stormed in a battle instead of commanding their units. That would be more of an event, not an encounter. The encounters are like locations. They're like location events. For the supply cache, I'll think about... weapon crates or care package of mana and stuff. Then again, though, I want it if you find a supply cache that it is guaranteed you are rescued. I want it to be like a little beacon where it's like, all right, I know that's there. If I need it, I can come back to it. And if you accidentally just found like guns there, it just that wouldn't save you if you were starving. So I feel like this should be consistent, just one thing. And the rest can be 10. That's my opinion on that. And I'll move this over since it's unique then. There. Okay, I think I am all done. The rest of my job will be to fill all this out, type them up, write the possible choices. Then when that's done this week, next week the artist will draw the images for this, and the week after they'll be implemented. And by mid-August, we will have all the encounters in, and that is the last major piece of content that the game needs. Otherwise, you know, all the units are in, the flags are designed, the regions are in, the art is in. So this is like the one part of the game that feels a little bit missing right now. So, and that should be done in a matter of weeks, which is quite nice. Because we already have a foundation for it laid. Like all of these encounters I already have made. I just don't like them, so I'm redoing it. But the system's there, right? Like we have this system. I'm also going to leave myself a note and just say to review the old encounters and see if we want to migrate any one for one. Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining me. I think I'll wrap up now. We'll keep the stream short and sweet. 100 people joined. Wow. There's a lot more people interested in the game. I used to do these streams and I'd get like 5 people. So thank you guys for joining. Also, make sure to join the Discord because we have frequent discussions there. So I will send a link, and you guys can join the Discord and participate in more discussions. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys for joining. I'll do another stream later, and we've got another devlog to do too.